Is the real estate agent going away? There's a lot of talk in the industry that there are too many agents, that agents aren't really worth what they're getting paid for or what they're getting paid, and that technology is taking the role of a real estate agent. So we're going to talk about that and how to stay relevant in a time where the world is changing technologically and people's perception of how things are done is changing. So we're going to talk about how to stay relevant as a real estate agent in a changing world. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Agent Bridge podcast. I'm Brandon Baca, Marine Corps veteran and 15-year realtor, broker, and coach.
And I'm Marl Hessen. I'm a Fortune 500 C-suite executive, real estate investor, and entrepreneur.
The Agent Bridge is the proven path to real estate success without the burnout. All right, guys, episode number 35. We're going to talk about if the real estate agent is going away. This is a topic of conversation. I know as you guys got into the real estate industry and you were testing, even back when I was doing it years and years ago, people were talking about, well, you know, there's too many real estate agents and everybody knows a real estate agent. And so how do you push through all of that, head trash to become a successful real estate agent? And the other thing is just technology, the increase of technology and knowing what works and what to employ and what to stay away from. That can all be really confusing. And you can even go to your leadership and they may not even know what's going on in the real estate world and from a technological perspective because it's moving so fast. And so how do you decipher and how do you discern what to use, how to use in technology, and just ultimately is our job being taken away by technology or the advances of technology. So we're going to talk about all that. Before we get into this, though, please do us a favor, like and subscribe. We crossed over, I think we talked about this last podcast, we crossed over 200. We're moving strong in that direction, excited about what's happening there. And we appreciate you guys. Make sure you leave a comment as well. Let us know how we can answer a question for you. We got some exciting stuff coming up in the future with the Agent Bridge. And so the more you guys give us feedback, the more we can create content that helps you become a better agent. Okay, so again with technology, and you have a technology background.
Yep, I do.
And so it's interesting, when you start to kind of get into this world, it's hard to know how to work it or how to know what to use from a technology perspective. And so as we kind of get into this, we'll talk about the specifics of that, but also how to stay relevant. I think a lot of people feel like their livelihoods are threatened, and there's a lot of talk about that. And it seems like the people who are negative are screaming the most. And the reason that is, a lot of your, agent publications, talking negatively about changes in the real estate or in the real estate world. And, this is going to, it seems like every other headline is this is going to kill the real estate agent. By the way, disclaimer before we get into this, RL has bad allergies. And so his eyes are watering.
I've never had allergies. I don't understand it.
It may negatively affect the quality of the podcast today. All right. So, but how do we how do we do all of that, right, but not let go of the personal touch?
Well, you saw what happened with when all the iBuyers popped up, when Zillow tried their offers, how much that tanked for them. I think what that proves is not that you can't introduce technology and it provides some benefit, but that the situations are very complex, the markets are very complex, and it's not something that you can put like broad stroke like a technological overlay and just say, hey, this is how it's going to work. And so, they lost a ton of money during that time where they were buying homes.
They did. They did. And Open Door lost. They were just buying up properties as fast as they could. But what were you saying?
Oh, I was saying I have a story here. So my mom was going to move back to live with my grandmother, with her mom. And she was going to list her house. And I had it all, comped out. And I was like, here's where we need to list. And Zillow, and this was back during the height of COVID, Zillow made her an offer. And it was like $70K over what I could comp it out in. Like I every which way tried to comp it out to get to that point. And I was like, just take the offer.
Right.
So I kind of helped her, walked her through, took the Zillow offer. They purchased it. Everything went through fine, got the money, and they relisted it at the price, like another $20,000 over what they offered her. and it sat and sat and sat and sat. And they ended up selling it for just under what I had comped it at when I was about to list it at that point. And this was like 12, 13 months later.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they were buying, and I don't know what analytics, background they were using, but they were way overpaying for a lot of properties. Now, if the market, if that particular market had a lot of data, and they had a lot to pull from, it was probably a little bit more accurate than that. This happened to be an area that didn't have a lot of recent sales. So that just goes to show you that not every market's the same. And, you can't just apply technology and think it's going to solve all the problems.
Well, and I think just the general thought is, and this is the other sort of like talk that's out there in the world, is that the real estate industry is sort of like ripe for disruption. And so there are lots of things that are tried, but what has happened though is they really haven't been able to work around the real estate agent because of the complexity of the transactions. So, one of the first things that the first places you have to go, and this is years and years of experience from my end, like they've been talking about the real estate agent going away for the last decade, since Zillow ever showed up. And so what I've noticed is that, let's take for sale by owners, for example, the amount of for sale by owners that are sold, even though Zillow markets and advertises them online, it's still the same conversion rate.
Yeah.
For sale by owners that end up listing with the MLS. So it's not going to change overnight. There are changes that are going to happen, and you want to pay attention to those changes, but I don't think you have to operate from a place of fear or scarcity. And that's the thing that is kind of number one, is like you need to get rid of scarcity thinking. So the people that are the most negative are the loudest. And they say things like, okay, agents are a commodity. There are too many real estate agents. You don't need agents to get through a transaction. Like they'll say, oh, you don't even need a real estate agent. Agents are too expensive. And so I wanted to throw those like negative or limiting beliefs out there and talk about the truth. Okay. Here's the truth. The world needs more great real estate agents. As we are out there in the world doing transactions, because we're out there doing transactions just like you guys are, there is a rash of people who have gotten into the industry, and because of lack of training, because of lack of mentorship, there are a lot of people who have no idea what they're doing. And so it can get complicated from a negotiation standpoint, from a just sort of like how this works. And so by you becoming or thinking of yourself as becoming a great agent, right, and continuing to develop that, you will stand out and you're going to continue to get business. So the world needs more great agents.
I would think of real estate agents similar to when people started using TurboTax to do taxes. Okay, so like TurboTax grows in popularity. People are now filing their own taxes online. They're not using a CPA. It's all checked on an automated system, and that was all fine when you were 16, 18, 21, had a very simple job, one income, like, the tax, the situation was simplistic in nature. You filed it and everything was fine. Then as you got older and you got a house and you got other stuff going on in your tax, like you got 401ks, you got all this other stuff that you can, put into retirement or do whatever. And it gets more and more complex. So you start to use a CPA and so every situation is different. Sure, you can probably list a home without a real estate agent and get it bought and sold if it's a very simplistic transaction, and you might be fine. Yeah. But you might get to a situation where you've got mold in the basement or you've got this or that, and the situation becomes very much more complex, and you need real estate agents on both sides who can work through those. Yeah. And so it's just like anything else. It just depends on the situation, but 99.9% of the time it's going to be better to have professionals involved.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the examples I used is, the CPA. It's like, well, the really good CPAs are doing really good, right? I mean, the other one was like a place where people looked for disruption was like lawyers. Yeah. Right. So you've got all these like LegalZoom and all these places, but it's like when you actually get into real legal matters, you need a lawyer. Yeah. And so it's the exact same thing. It's like once you get into complexity, I was talking to someone last night about a transaction, and this was a buyer who They buy houses. They're a more savvy real estate buyer and seller, because they have a few properties. But there still is some confusion. Like, okay, now how much are the title costs, and how does this, and what, and there's still like there needs to be an expert in there that's doing transactions multiple times a month that can advise them, right? Because they don't know all of the dials and the switches to turn to make a transaction happen, to negotiate in the right way, what's normal in the case of negotiating a transaction. And so the idea that people can go out there and it's like, oh, we don't need realtors. It's crazy. It's complex. And by the way, it's not getting less complex.
No.
Right?
Agree on that.
And I think a lot of this comes from that time where, well, just through COVID, everybody got pretty arrogant. Sellers especially got pretty arrogant because there wasn't a whole lot of marketing that needed to happen. There wasn't a whole lot of negotiation at all. Yeah. There weren't inspection contingencies. And so it's like, well, yeah, if you're going to remove inspection contingencies, no marketing is needed. We're dealing with a lot of scarcity, super low interest rates, like crazy, like never going to happen again market stuff. Well, I can see where they would get that idea. But as we come out of that, what's happening, right? Houses, guess what? You need to market them.
Yeah.
Right? You need people to help you. Guess what? You got to negotiate again. You have to price appropriately. You've got to, it's now more than ever, right? These real estate transactions are getting more complex, and you need great agents who know what they're doing.
Yeah, you need someone in your corner too. I mean, you can't, it's similar to walking into a new construction area where there's a real estate agent that's representing the builder in an office. Like, they're representing the builder. They want the best. They're working in the best interest of the builder. So right. Bring your own real estate agent. Make sure you know what you can and can't negotiate for, how to get through that situation and navigate it appropriately. So you just need someone in your corner who knows exactly the ins and outs of every transaction and can take you to the finish line.
Yep. So don't fall into that trap of, as we sort of wrap up that point, don't fall into the trap of scarcity, right? You want to have an abundant mindset. There is plenty of business for you out there as a real estate agent. And by becoming a better real estate agent, you can get more of it. And so that's some other things that we're going to talk about here. And so the next one is number 2, right? Learn how to differentiate from flashy technology and technology that works. And so when we're getting, because by the way, if you ever go to a real estate conference, you're going to walk in there and there's a booth about all of these different things that are going to make your life easier as a real estate agent. You're going to use this one product and it's going to make you $1 bazillion, right? Look, I'm not saying there is not technology that works, but we just have to learn to discern what works. Realize that everything is about 10 times harder than you think it's going to be in terms of implementation. So it's like, so how do you discern it, right? So the filters that I run things through initially is, how does this make me more money? Or how does this save me more time? Which time is money, right?
Absolutely,
so if I can get some time back, right, I can make more money. And so, first I need to work on my personal efficiency as a real estate agent. I need to work on, the inefficiencies that I have before I implement something new that's going to cause me to focus more time and energy on something that's ultimately going to have me exactly back in the same spot. So before you jump into the technology, make sure you're maximizing the stuff that you're supposed to be doing as a real estate agent anyway.
Right. Okay.
And then on the lead generation side, or on the tech side, from a percentage of profit, or from a percentage of saving time, like what is this going to do to your business to help you make money? Not what's sexy, what's flashy, right? What looks cool. So I'm not saying that there aren't benefits to technology that sometimes will make you look better to the client, but most of the time it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it really just needs to increase efficiency. It needs to solve a problem. There needs to be a purpose for technology. You don't just go buy technology and implement technology because it looks sexy.
Yeah,
it has to solve a problem, increase efficiency, make you more money, do something for you.
Yeah, and by the way, the other thing is I think it's okay. There are going to be some technologies that might make you look better to the client. But again, and I'm not saying you shouldn't do those things, but again, what I will say is make sure that you've got the space in your budget to kind of blow a little bit of money there, right? To make you look, I don't know, more professional or whatever. So generally, I would say for the majority of the people that are listening to this podcast, that's probably not a direction you want to go right now, because you need to work on your personal efficiency and the things that you already have at your disposal before you go into that space.
Yeah.
And also, most clients are not even going to know or care. Like when I go to client, like, I don't know, some app that I have or some this or that, they're generally not going to care. What they care about is, how are you going to sell my house for the most amount of money, or how am I going to find a house? Right. And so a lot of the technology pieces to them, they're not really worried about it.
Yeah, they don't care.
I mean, we had this come up one time with an agent that was coming from a different real estate company, and they were, it was like
they were hung up on a comp tool. Yeah.
It was a comp tool, right? And I can run comp tools on the MLS. Yeah. Right. And one of them might look better than the other. It was just like a tiny little detail.
Yeah, it was a tiny little detail. If you are a realtor, you can use RPR or something like that. And it did all the same functionality. It was maybe a few extra clicks, but they were only running like a couple of these a year, and it was going to be free versus like a couple thousand and a month. And it made no sense. Like that's a perfect example of, are you going to pay like $1,500 to $2,000 a month for this comp tool that you're going to use a couple times a year, and you have a free option that maybe takes you 5 to 10 more minutes?
Yeah.
No. Like that's a terrible example of, making your life easier, more efficient, or making you more money.
Yeah. You looked at it the right way, because there's a time money trade-off. It's like, okay, 5-10 minutes for $2,000. No, that's not that. It's better to just spend the extra 5 or 10 minutes.
And you're selling yourself in those things anyway. I'm not saying that you don't need to go in with like a good looking presentation and, just talk your way through it and have be very presentable, but you're selling yourself. You're not really selling this fancy tool that you have access to that comps out properties and looks pretty on paper. Right.
Well, the opposite side of the spectrum here is like where you have someone who's like a Luddite, who doesn't want to use technology at all. So you also don't want to get to that space where it's like, where you're resistant to try new things. There is going to be an amount of trial and error in the real estate business. And so, there are going to be things that look like they're going to work and then they don't. And we've even had tools that we have spent tens of thousands of dollars on, that because we ran a different market than some of the other people who were having massive success, it completely affected our ROI on this particular tool. So it was a good tool for these other markets, and they had great success, but it wasn't a good tool for us. And the reason that is, we'll just kind of get into it, was a marketing tool to basically source leads. The problem was the leads were coming through Facebook ads and Google pay-per-click. So they were coming in. We had the same amount of leads, and you're kind of paying for that amount. But the problem is Nashville's a high tourism area. So people are coming from out of state all the time. And just for fun, they're going, I wonder how much that house costs. And so that was completely watering down our leads, because people were like from Michigan or Nebraska or whatever, have no intention of moving here, but just hopped in to see. It's like, oh, that house looks cool, and I'm going to Nashville next week.
Yeah. Yeah, all this to say, technology is not evil. It needs to be properly reviewed and analyzed and utilized in the right ways. And so it's not evil. It's just you need to pick and choose where you spend your time and money on technology. But there's a lot of tools out there. Like you can use AI to craft better emails, or you can use AI to analyze things here and there. But all of those things are free. And do I say you need to waste your time down this rabbit hole of AI? No, but I'm just saying, like, technology is not evil. You just need to use it properly.
Oh, yeah. When ChatGPT first came out, even 6 months ago, people were just like, that was a super hot topic in real estate. But again, and I'm not saying it's not a useful tool. I mean, it's an extremely useful tool. But did it really, I don't know that it really changed that much for the real estate agent.
No, you can just use it here and there to make your life a little bit more efficient.
Exactly. Okay. The other thing, is understanding you as yourself and your business as a database, right? You need to have a database that works for you. And so if you look at a lot of these platforms, So we'll take Zillow and Realtor.com because those are just easy ones. Basically, what those are large databases.
Absolutely.
Massive databases, okay? And what they do is they look for, like analytically, like through marketing to their database, through sourcing and some ISA. So people like picking up the phone, right? Because they see that this particular person took an action on an email that was sent, right? They make a phone call and then they source you that lead. Now, here's what's happening from Realtor.com or Zillow.com. And by the way, I'm not mad at them. This is just the reality. So I'm not saying that I have a certain opinion about it because we've used both of these tools in our businesses in the past. But Zillow, basically, they are sourcing leads and they are handing them off to you. So you are basically utilizing their platform to get business, and they are charging you increasing amounts of money for it.
Yeah.
Two ways. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and they're moving towards the pay at close model.
Yeah,
so
because it makes them more money.
Exactly. So their job is going to be sourcing higher quality leads, but taking money at close rather than just charging you monthly for leads, and whatever you make, you keep. So that's going to be damaging, in my opinion, to real estate agents using those products, because now you're going to have brokers that want to pay for it.
Yep.
And Zillow that wants to take it at close. And now broker wants their cut to get their money back for the investment that they've made. And now the agent's seeing 30-40% of that at the back end, maybe.
Right.
Because if Zillow's going to take 35 and the broker's going to take another 20, you
I
got
think
45
it's funny
left.
that you said 35 because it's more like 40. It's like 38 to 40%.
Yeah.
On some of these, like for like the flex type stuff. Zillow Flex, which is like pay per close, pay at close.
Well, I'm just giving you best case scenario. You're only left with 45. Best case scenario.
Right. Best case scenario. That's exactly right. And so, you've got to understand if you are utilizing someone else's database, like Realtor.com and Zillow, they can change the rules for that database at any time. And they have. Yeah. And they will.
And they had an issue where they couldn't deliver the leads that they were selling. So we had the problem. So we had a guaranteed, I think it was 10 like warm transfers and like another, I think they call them contacts, like another 5 contacts. We were getting like 6 to 8 total between both. And our rep came to meet with us in person and said, look, we just can't deliver on what we've sold.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so now we are subject to an agreement where they're not having to perform on the same terms that they sold us on, but we're in a contract. And so we have to sort of maintain, and they're kind of like, well, we're working on it. But again, we're subject to their database and what's going on with their database. Now, I want you to think about yourself and having your own database, because I think, to me, if you're going to be a professional business owner as a real estate agent, you have to maintain and cultivate that database. Okay, so that means I don't care if it's 200 people. I don't care if it's 250, 500, whatever. The job is to grow that database, actively market to that database, and track what it's doing. So that's where I think you can't get behind as a real estate agent in terms of like building your database over time. And because of what a lot of real estate agents will do is they'll go, and by the way, I am guilty of this. So don't make the same mistake that I did. Because when I was early on in my real estate career, I just wasn't staying in touch with my past clients because I wasn't cultivating that database. And I lost sales from people just because they forgot my name.
Yeah.
People aren't thinking about you all the time. And you become very close with people, during the process of their transaction. But after that, you're out of their life. They're out of your life. And you're going to run into them somewhere and you're like, oh, crap, what's their name? Right? But they're saying the same thing about you. So the more you cultivate that past client database and people who are interacting with you, the better. And then you can source business from that database rather than paying Zillow to do it.
Right. It's staying relevant to that database. It's probably larger than 200 people. So you take your people you're friends with on Facebook, the people on your phone, the people you send Christmas cards to, family, friends, all of that, and you put it all in a database. And every time you have a real estate conversation, it gets added to the database. And you're not using that database to just say, if you remember our last podcast, are you going to buy and sell in 6 months? That's not how you market to that database. You're making sure that you're relevant and you're adding value to their lives. Then you've got plenty of business that can be sourced from there over time if you market to it appropriately.
Yeah, if you want to do things like a weekly blog or market update, but the only thing is, like, I would make it personal. So the more personal, the better, because we get, we're marketed to constantly by lenders and title companies and all that stuff. I know the difference between something that I want to read or something that's just a market update that they pulled from, their corporate headquarters that just, has pretty benign information. That's not helpful to me. But if it's somebody that's like, the opposite example of this would be like Tim Ferriss, who's an author. He has a weekly blog where he shares his podcast and his top 3 books that he's read for the week or something like that, right? So it's like leadership content that he has like personally written. I'm more interested in that, right? And I'm not saying I jump in there every single week and buy all of the books, but occasionally I'll see something that I go, oh, I want to listen to that podcast, I need to get that book.
It's at least getting you to open the email. I mean, it's not like you're just immediately trashing it when you see an email from this person.
No.
So, and that's the key, is like, make it different. It doesn't even have to be about real estate. And we're getting into a podcast we've already covered, but just send an update about the events in your town, or send an update about a restaurant that you ate at that you loved, or anything. And people are interested to read that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And so it's not, when you're building an email list, it's not drips, right? I'm not saying build a drip campaign and then have a bunch of people on drip campaigns. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about really getting in, sharing relevant information, sharing community information. And like, I think it would be helpful to even do something like, okay, well, first weekend of the month, I'm going to do real estate updates. Second week of the month, I'm going to do the restaurant, highlight a restaurant. Third, local business. Fourth, a community event, right? So or a community event calendar, right? Build out a little strategy so it takes you're not having to create from scratch. And that way you can be thinking about it. But that stuff is like what I just came up with, I think would be really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just like develop a weekly, or a rhythm to it. And I think people were going to be interested in it and engaged with it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the key, is just don't make it stale. Don't make it the same content all the time, so that people just start moving it to the trash. It just needs to be something like, hey, they're going to check it out. They're going to open it. They may not be thoroughly engaged with every email, and that's okay, but just it's enough to keep them reading your emails.
Well, and what will happen is basically they're going to see you be like, oh, I got your email about that, whatever. We tried that new restaurant. They never responded to your email, but when they see you, they remember you, and they remember that you're giving them value.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Number 4, go analog. I always think about this, that funny to me that like records are coming back. Like people want to buy like an actual like record and put it on a record player.
Mm-hmm.
And,
there's a warm sound to it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
right?
what everybody says.
Yeah. It sounds warmer, sounds better. Right. But I do think that there is a lot of like nostalgia and connection with analog versus digital. And I think as a real estate agent, to really be an effective communicator or effective business owner in your community, I think you do need to have as much as you can, like an analog approach. So that means like handwritten notes versus emails.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a big one. The other one would be like sending birthday cards. Like actually like write someone, because who sends a birthday card to anybody anymore, right? If somebody gets a birthday card from you, that's going to be a big deal. The other one is like people want to get together. So community events that you're hosting, right? Like the Santa shoot, or like what was it? The event that we talked about. It was the one where you like put a dumpster in front of your house and people's just like, come get rid of your junk.
Yeah.
Right. Those things those are analog things that you do that are going to create connection with people, that are going to keep you top of mind.
Yeah. Right.
Community leader type stuff. So, and community service. So, do that. Open houses. Right.
My son's at camp for 2 weeks, and I dropped both of my sons, and they're both 11 and 10 this year, and I dropped him off on Father's Day. My wife and I drove up and dropped him off on Father's Day. We're picking him up this Friday, so they've been there for 2 weeks. Yesterday we checked the mailbox and I get a letter in the mail, and it's my younger son who said, "Hey, Dad, having fun at camp. And he's handwriting this, like misspelled half the words, but it's fine.
Yeah.
And he's like, I just wanted to check in and make sure you had a really good Father's Day." And that's all he wrote on the note.
That was awesome.
I'm going to keep that note.
Yeah.
But if Camp had sent me an email saying, "Hey, Lawson just wanted you to know you had a good, hope you had a good Father's Day," that's not that, important, but it's just the handwritten thing. Like he took the time at camp, sit down, wrote me a letter, put it in the mail. That means so much more than an email.
That's so funny because our kids are at camp too. And, first thing that my wife told me, she goes, because we get like a digital thing of the mail that's coming in, and she goes, "Oh, we got a letter coming from Gigi today. This is probably going to be the highlight of my day."
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, first of all, that's awesome because it's like, well, you have a kid that's saying doing something thoughtful, right? That's awesome. And then the other part is like, you're going to hang on to that. And so when you send handwritten notes to people that are meaningful, thoughtful, I'm not saying they won't throw them away, but they're probably going to have a hard time throwing them away.
I'm going to remember that 10 years from now, but I wouldn't have remembered getting an email.
Yeah.
You just wouldn't. Like, you get too many of them. It's not that personal.
Right.
But I'm always going to remember on this particular Father's Day, my son stopped camp having probably loads of fun, wrote a letter and put it in the mailbox.
Another one is like from an analog perspective, like, going to coffee with someone, but I mean, just even picking up the phone and calling someone, even if you just leave them a voicemail and said, "Hey, just thinking about you. Hope you're doing well."
With no intent, just to call them just to see how they're doing. Yeah.
I did that with a couple of friends last week. And everybody is like, "Man, thank you so much for calling." Because I have been incorporating an evening walk into my routine, and I kind of like the time. And also it gives me some time to think, but also to reconnect with people that maybe I haven't connected with. But each person that I've called has been very appreciative that I took the time to call them or have a cup of coffee or whatever. People appreciate that. So be the person that does that. Okay. So again, number 4 is go analog. Number 5, hone your craft. Be working on getting better as a real estate agent. At the top of the podcast, we talked about, the world needs more great agents, but it's not going to happen accidentally, right? You want to be becoming better. So like the real estate magazines, by the way, you can get content from these things that you can turn around and share with people. It's going to make you sound knowledgeable. But read real estate magazines and real estate books and listen to real estate podcasts. Hopefully you are, right? Because you're listening to ours, but there are others out there. You want to be continually developing yourself as a professional so that you stand out. And that you can speak knowledgeably about your local market, but also about the real estate market in general. People, look, there's so much information out there, but people want wisdom. And so it's going to be your involvement or your development that's going to basically develop your real estate wisdom that you can share with people. I think
pick a skill that you use in real estate and dedicate a month to it. So maybe this month it's how to be a better communicator to different personality types, or maybe next month it's negotiation, or maybe the month after that it's problem solving skills. All of these things you use on a daily basis in real estate. Pick something and work on it. A week, a month, whatever, a day, whatever you decide is the right amount of time for you. But there's so many skills to learn in real estate, and nobody has achieved perfection in any of them.
No.
So there's always something you can learn to be better. And guess what? Those negotiation skills, they travel over to negotiating for your next car or doing, there's a lot of things that you can learn while trying to become a better real estate agent that, are transcend real estate. Yeah,
they're going to generally improve your life. And so become that person that is reading and listening and developing themselves in their profession. And it really doesn't take, what is it? Like I was listening to this guy the other day, Jesse Itzer, and he's an author. And he was talking about if you do 18 minutes a day, over 100 days and one particular thing, you will be better than 95% of the people in that practice.
I totally agree with that. But
so
we did a podcast on emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Listen to that one.
It doesn't take much. It's more about consistency and mindset in developing your skill. That's going to make you stand out.
Yeah.
So, but I already know you guys are on your path because you're listening. But yeah, just that general sense of improving, and this might sound trite, but this is real. Learn how to work on your business versus in your business. Because we can get caught up in that customer service, like where we're going on showings or we're writing the offer, or we're doing all of that stuff. But you also want to take basically a general look at your business and improve, like what you said, that function of your business, whether it's your database, whether it's your sales skill. You might want to take some time and develop your follow-up. Any number of things, right, where you're stepping back. And I love what you said about like take a month and focus on that particular thing.
Yeah.
Because that focus for that month will improve, that 1 month focus will improve your productivity for the whole year.
Yeah. And take a realistic look at your business too. Just because you know how to negotiate, or just because you know how to communicate, or know how to do this or know how to do that, doesn't mean you're implementing it in your business. So make sure that you're implementing skills that you may already have in your business. Like, are you actually following up, even though you know how to properly follow up with your pipeline? Or make sure you are reaching out and serving others, like doing all the things that you already know how to do, but make sure they're implemented.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's go back over, just this, podcast recap. Okay, so number one, get rid of your scarcity thinking. So stop your stinking thinking. And someday I'm going to learn how to turn off my phone. The other one, learn how to differentiate from technology that works or what's just flashy. Number three, you always need to be working on developing your database so that you have ownership of your database and your clients, and you haven't given that over to someone else. I think it's okay to do it for a little while, but big picture, you want to become Zillow or Realtor.com. You don't want to be subject to whatever they're doing. Okay. Go analog. Do the phone calls, do the handwritten notes, do the events. And number five, hone your craft. Be working on getting better. What would any final words from you?
Nope, I think we covered it.
Awesome. Well, guys, again, thank you so much for joining us this week. Please take time to like, subscribe, share this episode with a friend who needs it, please, because that's how we grow. And as always, we appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, guys.